Hi and welcome to this week's episode of the Daydream District Interview, where every week I'm interviewing somebody from the mobile VR industry. This week it's my pleasure to speak with Tommy Palm, who is the CEO of Resolution Games, who have brought us Wonderglade and Bait. My name is Sebastian and this channel is called Daydream District, bringing you the latest and greatest of Daydream VR. So if you haven't subscribed yet, do so now. With this out of the way, let's jump right into the interview with Tommy. Unfortunately, during the interview, the video froze, so I can only show you a static picture. But anyway, stay tuned because this interview is very well worth it to have a listen in. So, in today's episode of the Daydream District Interview, it's my pleasure to say hello to Tommy Palm, who is the CEO of Resolution Games, who have brought us Wonderglade and now Bait. So, hi Tommy, how are you doing?
Hi, pleasure to talking to you today. I'm doing fine, thank you.
Okay, great, awesome. So, first of all, let's talk a bit more about Resolution Games, your game studio. Where are you located, and since when does the company exist, and how it came about the company was started?
All right, so we are a Swedish game studio situated in the center of Stockholm, the capital. We are 21 people today, and we've been doing this since January 2015, so a little bit more than 2 years now.
Okay, great. So, how was the company started? Did you found it?
Yes, I spoke to my old friend Martin Wilkens, our CTO. Me and Martin go way back to, we grew up in the same neighborhood in Stockholm, and we were making games back in the Commodore 64 days in mid 80s. And we were talking about what we wanted to do next, and VR felt like a very exciting new platform, something that we've been excited for quite a long time. The knowledge of what VR would bring to games to be actually merged into the game world itself, and it felt like early 2015 would be a good opportunity to start exploring what could be done. And from there, we contacted a few other people that we worked with in the industry. One of the key other founders is Måns, who I went to school with, who's also a computer scientist. And we got together and got very excited. And we started building our first game, a very simple solitaire game that we launched early on Oculus Gear, for Oculus Gear VR. And that was really interesting to get something out, and we learned quite a lot. You know, our first prototype was really crappy. To look back, it's so many noob mistakes in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
since
sure.
we're getting better and better all the time. Still not fully mastered the art of making games for VR, but
certainly good enough. Well, I really love Wonderglade and Bay. I think you're doing an awesome job. So thank you for giving us these games. I think they're awesome. So I would just like to talk about one thing that you mentioned. You did games for Commodore 64, which is incredible. This is basically one of my childhood memories. I suppose for lots of people it is. What games did you do? Is there any of the games which are like more broadly known?
No, we
Okay.
never published anything. We were very young at the time. I actually met people in the industry who were the same age as we were that published really big title games that I've been playing and enjoying.
Yes.
But the games was mostly me and Martin. We made them for ourselves and some other friends.
Yes.
We were really into multiplayer games already back then.
Oh, cool.
That's one of my big passions too.
Nice.
So with just makes it so much more fun, right?
Yes, it's true. So at that time you were programming in BASIC?
Yeah, I was mostly a BASIC programmer. Martin did a lot of assembler programming as well. and he was much more advanced. That's why he's the CTO, and I'm the business guy.
Okay, great. So before you started Resolution Games, let's talk a bit about your history. You were very successful with a game that probably all of us know. It's Candy Crush, right?
Yes, I had a really fun ride there. So I've been working with mobile games since the late 90s. So I had quite a long history there. I started another company called Fabrication Game that King acquired. And the first game we worked on there was the mobile version of Candy Crush Saga. It became
congrats for that. That was obviously one of the most successful games ever on mobile, and even my mother-in-law plays it a lot still. So I'm wondering, so now about Resolution Games, isn't it a very bold move to start a VR gaming company now, since the market is still so immature? I mean, isn't it more of an investment into the future at this point in time?
Yeah, definitely. But the one thing that I learned from working very early with mobile games is that it is a very interesting time for learning things, and it takes some time before you kind of hone in on your skills of developing for a platform and get the team together to work on the same goal and on the same story and all the details that goes into a game. So it felt like it would be, risk, but also very rewarding, getting in early and have a chance to learn with the market as it grows. Yeah. I still think it's very early days of VR now, which is different from when we started. There is actual consumer hardware out in the market. And I believe that some of these platforms are really cool, but they're still very first generation. Everything.
Absolutely.
It's still quite clunky. It's expensive, and this is something that will continue developing and become cooler and cooler.
Of course.
But already, just to be able to experience the game world from within, I think is mind-blowingly awesome.
Totally agreed. It's incredible. So I'm wondering, are you also developing for other VR headsets, not just Gear VR and Daydream? Are you also doing something for Vive and Rift?
Well, we're quite a small studio, and one of the things that I think is important as an entrepreneur is to make sure that you're focusing on something. And we felt that primarily looking at mobile VR was a big challenge enough, and it fitted quite well with our background. Both me and Martin and Måns have been working a lot at optimizing for limited hardware. Mm-hmm. So that's where some of our technical knowledge goes back to, and I think it doesn't really matter so much what platform you are aiming for at this point, as long as you don't spread your resources too thin.
Too thin, yes.
And I think that there is a big need on all the platforms to get some games that are more than just demos, that are proper games with some depth in them, and you enjoy going back. And hopefully soon we'll see some social games as well, where you can interact with your friends.
Yeah, I hope so too. So I'm wondering, when do you think the VR market will hit a stage until it is profitable to make a mobile VR games, as it is for making a mobile game like Candy Crush, for example?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, Candy Crush is an outlier in many ways. It's one of the reasons why it was such a fantastic journey to be a part of that trip, and every month we would just look at those numbers and say, this has to stop somewhere. We never see player numbers that was that big. And I definitely, still think that in many ways mobile is rather early. Mobile smartphones especially reach out to perhaps soon 2 billion people of the 7.4 billion people on Earth. And I think that's just a matter of time before everybody will be connected. And I definitely think that all of those people have the potential of being players somehow, and enjoying games as a form of entertainment. Mm-hmm. And eventually, I think all of those people would like to use VR and AR in their lives. It will be not only games, it will be supporting productivity and connecting to other people, which is a core thing of being a human being.
Yeah, true. And in terms of time, what do you think? Until when will the mobile VR market be more mature? Let's say 2-3 years or sooner. What do you think?
It depends on what you mean with more mature. I think for me, Daydream and Samsung Gear is already super impressive platforms. I think for many end consumers, it's still a little bit clunky and uncomfortable, and the software and games are not enough to support long retention. People are not coming back as much as it would be needed to see it long term. So I think two things that needs to happen is positional tracking is very important. So you can lean in and look around in VR. And the other thing that would be enormously big is if you could get a better hand interaction and actually reach out and push buttons and things. Because when you have that, if you look at, from my perspective as a game designer, things become so incredibly much more intuitive, and you don't have to explain an interaction system. If there is a virtual smartphone on the table, you can pick that up and use your real world knowledge of a smartphone to interact with that object. Whereas right now, when we have a joystick or even a controller that you utilize in 3D, it still takes quite a lot of explanation to do when you're explaining to a player how to use this thing as an abstraction in a game. So a lot of the players are lost in that. And we spend a lot of time internally in user testing and trying to make something super intuitive. And when it's not, we work a lot with tutorials and onboarding. But when you go out in the field and see how people are using it, they're super happy about the Daydream experience, and they give it to a friend, and then they have all their progression. So they already passed through the tutorial stages, and then that onboarding is not there. So that simple thing that might look very simple from the outside is actually one of the biggest thing. And I think that's what King has been doing so fantastically with their games, that they're very intuitive to start with and understand how that gameplay works. And that's how they were able to reach out to 500 million players or whatever their numbers are today.
Yeah, true. I also agree with you that I think like positional tracking and this hand tracking is going to be very important for mobile VR. And I also believe that it's going to come. Well, there's Tango for Google, and at one point they will kind of meld it together with Daydream, I believe, and then we're going to have it. And there's also like third parties who are making this positional tracking for mobile VR. Probably you've heard about those Nolo VR, who's building like a hardware to support this. And yeah, I think lots of things are happening. It's very, very exciting to be here right now and to see this all unfold in front of us.
Yes, good. I agree.
Yeah. So now let's talk a bit about Wonderglade. It has been one of the Google launch titles, and well, I personally enjoyed it a lot, and lots of people enjoyed, of course. And I'm wondering, did Google approach you to do it? Because it feels like it's like the perfect primer to show off the Daydream platform with a motion controller. So I'm wondering, how did you work together with Google on this one? Did they approach you to do it, or how did it happen?
Well, we have always had a very good working relationship with Google and Oculus and some of the hardware key players in the market. So, and we as a company, we've said that we want to make the type of games that would be perfect for when you want to showcase VR for somebody new. So it felt like a very exciting opportunity with a new platform to be able to make a title that would be a really good door opener to introduce new person to what VR is, and that's what we felt that we've achieved pretty well. We have one of the highest rating on the Google Play Store for Wonderglade, so that's a fantastic sign that we have been able to achieve that. I can't talk too much about the details of
sure.
any business that we're doing, but I must say that I think that Daydream for me at this point is the best mobile platform because of the controller and that you are able to interact in 3D. And in Wonderglade we really experimented a lot. It felt like a great opportunity for us as a developer to have this kind of sandbox environment where we really could go with many crazy ideas. And I think we've probably by now prototyped at least 14 or 16 more game concept within that that world that didn't make it all the way to production yet. But I think an amusement park setting is a really good playground to play around with new mechanics, and that we're doing there. We also wanted to create kind of a social setting, so that's why you come to this glade and you have other NPC characters there. You can't really communicate a lot with them today, but that's part of the vision is that it could grow.
Okay, yeah, it's cool that you can introduce many more games to it, and you did actually with hamster hoops, which I like very much. And so I'm wondering, what is your personal favorite mini game in Wonderglade?
I would say hamster hoop actually is right now. I really like the mini golf game as well, and I have a special passion for Tindertown for several reasons. But my favorite one right now is probably hamster hoop, and it was fun. The development process of that was. We said, a basketball game would be great, and we could do it as a really quick implementation. And we tried first, and we couldn't really. It felt like it would be so simple to just, swipe the ball. But since we don't have positional tracking, the controller doesn't pick up perfectly. It doesn't feel like you throw the ball, so you can't do like real world physics. So it took a lot of effort to actually find some control scheme that felt intuitive and people would understand. So we spent much more development time in it than we thought we would have to do, and it turned out really great. So I'm super happy about that.
Yeah, cool. I'm wondering, do you still code yourself, or are you really now the business guy who's telling everybody what to do?
Well, I don't code myself. We have hackathons every now and then I sit down and do some tutorials in Unity. I am an excellent Java programmer, but I rarely practice that. I still did a lot of prototyping maybe 4 years back, but Java is so slow when doing visual things compared to Unity. I mean, Unity, the game engine that we use internally a lot, is so efficient in doing everything that you have to program manually if you're an old school guy like me.
Yeah, Unity is really fantastic. Great. So that's Wonderglade, and now let's talk a bit about your new title for Daydream VR, which is Bait. Tell us a bit more about what is it all about.
Bait is a fishing game, and I think you can perhaps see one of our posters that we have in the background with Jim Bob, one of the main characters. That is, he has a fishing shed, and you go there and you buy and upgrade your equipment. And it's one of these titles where we felt that we think it would be very relaxing to create a really nice atmosphere with calm waters and different nature experience. And that is a real challenge to create things like trees and leaves and natural material. And of course, we've chosen a very stylized graphical style because we have to, because we're basically limited to about 50,000 polygons, which is about 200 times less than you have from a PC. So there is a challenge to select so it doesn't feel when you go in as a player as a low polygon experience. And I think we ended up in a really nice middle ground where it does look cartoony, but it still gives you that sense of relaxation that you get with fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent some time fishing, and I can just agree. It's very relaxing to be in VR and fish a bit. So what happens if you go over that 200,000 polygon count? Will it start to stutter, or what's going to happen?
Yes, it does. The frame rate drops, and the player becomes uncomfortable and cybersick eventually.
Okay, got
so
it.
It's very important to stay within the limitations of the platform.
Okay, got it. So back to Bait. What do you think is the draw that people would like to do fishing in VR? What makes them want to fish in VR?
Well, I think one of the things that we saw with popular mobile games like Candy Crush was that people like to use games as a way to wind down after a stressful day of work. Sometimes, I really love my work, and I have a lot of things happening all the time, and it can be very hard to just stop thinking about work. And then I think games like this are great when you can just go in and do something else, and your brain just instantly deletes everything that you had on your mind, and it gives you a sense of calmness very quickly. That is great.
True. And then in Bait there's like so many different kind of interesting species of fish that I was already fishing there. It's really mind-blowing. Could you tell our viewers like how many different species of fish you have built?
That is a good question. I'm not updated to that anymore. I think we have about 10 per lake, and I think we have 5 different lakes now.
Yeah.
So around 50, I would guess.
I think even more actually. I think more, but I can update our viewers later once you probably can send me the actual number. Good. So Bait is the first and only dedicated fishing game for VR, and people can pick it up right now for €7.49 off the Daydream Play Store. And actually, Resolution Games was kind enough to give me 10 free codes of the game that I'm going to give to the community later next week. So stay tuned to Daydream District. So now that was Bait, and now I would like to ask you if you can talk about it. What is your next VR project for Resolution Games?
I'm sorry we haven't disclosed that yet, but we have 2 teams. So we're working on 2 new exciting things. So I'll be happy to come back to you
Awesome.
and talk about them once we have enough material to disclose anything.
Great, thank you so much. So now in the end of the interview, I would like to speak a bit about you. Like, I would like to know, what was your very first VR experience?
That's actually, I remember that very clearly. It was in 1992 or 1993. And there was an arcade machine. And we had one of the 300 that was being made. We had that in Sweden. And I got to try it at the skiing resort. You had to pay 10 euros to play once. And it was actually a multiplayer game, but there was only one machine, so you could just play against AI. It was a terribly stuttering experience, and I think I was one of the few person who really enjoyed it and felt like, okay, wow, this is the future that I'm seeing right now.
Wow, 1992, incredible. Yeah. Well, and the experience was okay, or I mean, for that time.
I mean, it was kind of a first person view, as I remember it, or third person perhaps, and it's called Dorsetal Nightmare or something. Uh-huh. And you're on platforms and you're shooting at other players. And you would move around, so it was nauseating, but still, it really made me feel that working with games was the right career choice. It's just going to be more and more awesome.
Perfect.
I already then in '92 felt that was super awesome, and if you look at the graphics now, it's really
mind blowing how everything developed.
Yeah.
Really. Nice. Yeah. So your career choice was games, and I think you have like a dream job for many people. You're the CEO of a company who does VR games. So my next question is like a very open question, probably. How does one become the CEO of a VR game studio?
Yeah, I think my way went through programming. So I studied computer science, and I've done a lot of programming. I've been in many different roles. I still work a lot with game design. So that's one way in. I think maybe more common is that people have a MBA degree and knows the business aspects, which is also needed very much in the games industry. But I think if you want your own company, the financing part of games is one of the more trickier things. And I think I meet a lot of indie developers, and some of the best ones are just self-financed and do it on their own in their spare time and with their old friends, like a garage band type of style.
I see. Great. So now, as my last question, I know that some of our audience would love to become VR game developers in the future. And what kind of advice would you give to them about it? Like how to go about it? What would be the right thing to learn first? If you're like, you have no idea about the whole thing, but you would like to take this as your career choice, what would you tell them? What should they learn now?
I think Unity tutorials are the simplest way in. I think anyone can do it. It's fun. It's something that you can do on game jams with friends. Doesn't matter how old you are. As soon as you can read English, it is valid to start. If you're 40, it's not too late. I love doing it. I don't know much about Unity before I started. It's very straightforward to learn. So that's the recommendation I would give.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tommy, for this interview. It has been great. I really enjoyed to speak with you. And yeah, I hope to speak with you in the future again when your next game is out or whenever you have something to announce.
All right. Great. Thank you very much. Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Tommy. And that's it already for this week's interview. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to Daydream District yet, do so now. Keep on daydreaming and see you in the next video.